Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I am currently wondering if I brought enough firewood inside to have my wood stove going for as long as a potential power outage might be. It's the very best part of being a homeowner out in the country. It's delightful. How are you?
Currently warm enough right now. I'm not. I don't want to. I'm looking for some wood to knock here. I don't want to speak ill of anything. I don't want to say everything's going fine. I would just like to get to the show and not even acknowledge the weather because I don't want to anger anybody, anything, anyone. I'm just going to not even look at it, not even address it, and maybe it'll go away. Like the spider from last week's show.
Yeah, exactly. As long as just don't anger the spider and it won't eat you. Just don't say anything bad about the ice, raining down from the sky, and maybe it will let you keep your power on until we finish this show.
Thinking about doing the show just under my covers, and so that nobody can get me. But today's show, Tom, very exciting. It's a bold prediction show. Bold predictions for the members of the 2022 class for this year. Just random bold predictions. Now, not to be confused with our bold predictions for the 2022 season, some of which involved true freshmen. Not to be confused with our prediction show back in December about which of these freshmen will be the first to be an All-American, the first to score, first to do this or that. Those are just regular predictions. These, as you guys know, are bold predictions. Now, they are hard to tell apart from Tom's regular predictions. I will give you that. But they're labeled bold, so that it's kind of how you know. It's like, the taco sauce from Taco Bell. Some of it is labeled hot, and it's not hot. But at least you know, hey, it's different than the mild.
Thank you very much. It is hard to tell these different apart from my regular predictions because these also will be correct. But these are just, these at the time that you're hearing them will be like, that's not going to happen. It will seem less plausible to you, the mere mortal, whereas I, all-knowing, all-seeing. What's the Punxsutawney Phil line? We just saw this earlier this week. The all-knowing, all-seeing oracle or whatever it is for Punxsutawney Phil. I forget how they introduce him. But me, I'm just a football predicting groundhog. I guess that's the big takeaway here.
Also, you said you were not mortal, so you're an immortal football predicting groundhog, of which I found out some groundhogs only live to be like 3 years old.
Yes, I saw that. Yes, the groundhog somewhere in New Jersey died right before Groundhog Day. It's like, oh boy, I don't know whether he saw his shadow or not, but he did not see that coming, I'm guessing. So
probably owed some people some money.
Not as good as when the mayor of New York dropped the groundhog about 7 or 8 years ago and killed it. That was another great moment in groundhog history. Like, maybe we should leave the rodent handling to the professionals. That's maybe what I'm thinking here.
Right. I don't know. Do you go to college for that? Anyway, Tom. Let's get to the program. Let's get to these predictions. I would like to go first, if that's okay.
Go right ahead. Yes, absolutely. And we each have 5, I believe. Correct?
Yes, we just went 5. My first one, and speaking of 5, at least 5 members of this 2022 freshman class will score touchdowns this season. Now, you're like, is that a lot? Yes, only throughout the entire history of Ohio State football, dating all the way back to 2009, Ohio State has never had more than 4 true freshmen score a touchdown in a season. That actually happened this past year with Evan Pryor, Denzel Burke, Marvin Harrison, and Travion Henderson. I'm saying next year it's going to be 5, and it's going to require some defensive help for sure, probably more defensive help than they got this past year in 2021. And I just assume CJ Hicks is going to do something of one of everything at some point this year. But him, maybe somebody else. But 5 of them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would not have guessed that it had been that long without 5 freshmen scoring, because you would have said this year, well, I'm sure Emeka Egbuka scored a touchdown at some point, but it's like, no, actually he didn't, despite the fact that like about 6 times it was like, oh yeah, he's definitely gone. Like, nope, almost gone, not quite gone. An 85-yard reception this year without scoring a touchdown. That takes some doing. No, that's a very good one. That's because I think you probably would figure Dallan Hayden gets one at some point as a running back. Maybe Devin Brown runs one in at some point as a quarterback. You'd figure 2 of the 4 wide receivers, maybe Bennett Christian as a tight end, 1 on the defense. I mean, like, this is one that seems like this should definitely happen, but the fact that it hasn't happened, therefore, makes it bold. I will award you full credit for this one. That is a very good one. I did not think to look for that. That is a great pick. I did not go back to 2009. I only went back the last 4 seasons. The Ohio State third-string quarterback, which I am assuming would be Devin Brown this year. So the Ohio State third-string quarterback has thrown for 101 yards this year. That was Jack Miller. 0 yards in 2020, 104 yards in 2019, and 0 yards in 2018. So the last 4 years, they have thrown for a total of 205 yards. So I am going to say that Devin Brown throws for more than the last 4 years of third-string Ohio State quarterbacks combined, 206 yards or more.
That's pretty good.
That was another one where I was like, you thinking it's like, well, Gunnar Hoke had the 60-yard touchdown to Jameson Williams, so certainly he had a couple hundred yards. Or, you had Jack Miller played quite a bit, it felt like, for a third-string quarterback during the course of the year. So it was like, certainly and it was like, no, 101 yards. There are a couple positions where you look at it and it's like, as soon as you get a couple spots down the depth chart, the production drops way, way, way off, and quarterback is one of them.
And then you come to the realization and the remembrance that, oh yeah, Tate Martell was the backup quarterback in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That was a thing.
And he only had 200 and something yards that year, too.
269 yards.
Nice. Did you see the tweet from our good friend James Grayes this week?
Yes, I did.
The greats always retire in threes, and it was Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tate Martell. It was like, oh, that's it. Go ahead and shut it down. No one's going to top that one.
All right, my number 2 prediction, my number 2 bold prediction. We'll see how bold you think it is, because it may just be actually a prediction, but then I'll have to maybe increase it a little. CJ Hicks leads the class in sacks this year. Now, obviously, he's a linebacker. He's not a defensive lineman. He's not a defensive end where most of these sacks come from. So I'm calling for him to be utilized on the blitz a little bit, or maybe I'm calling for none of the other freshmen to have anything, and he gets one. But I think he's going to play enough to where they like what he does, getting to the quarterback, getting after the quarterback. However Jim Knowles wants to use him, I think it happens that it's in that way that impacts the ball, impacts the quarterback. So I'm going to say he leads this class in sacks. And you're talking about Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, Omari Abor just signed on Wednesday, all top 100 pass rushers. And yet me saying, ha, 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 ha. It's going to be CJ Hicks. And that's very bold, because honestly, how often does this happen?
Yeah, how often does a linebacker lead the team in sacks? Not very often. It feels like it's almost always a defensive lineman, and this year it was the true freshman. I think Tyleik Williams led them in sacks, right? And then behind that it was Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau. So, yeah, I mean, that's another one that doesn't necessarily sound insane, because he's someone who's probably going to get on the field, and they're probably going to put him in spots where I feel like the sack numbers this year might be very different than they were in previous years. So, yeah, I like that one. That seems both attainable and also fairly bold, and it kind of ties in with my next one, which is Caden Curry exceeds JT Tuimoloau's and Jack Sawyer's top numbers for 2021. So whichever one of those guys had the higher number, Caden Curry meets or exceeds both of those. So tackles would be 17, tackles for loss would be 4.5, sacks is 3. Now, I think tackles is the one that I think is maybe going to be the biggest challenge, because I don't know how many reps he's really going to get. But, I mean, three sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss. He feels like he's going to get on the field probably fairly early, which means he's probably in line for that kind of production, and you're figuring they probably have an extra game or two in here during the course of the year. So I think he has a possibility to kind of meet or exceed the best of JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer from last fall.
I cannot say that that's not bold, because it's bold enough. Let's just... I also cannot give you full credit. No, I can't dispute any of that. I can't say, well, what, but, I can't nitpick it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these snaps come from. Does this schedule being maybe more difficult, does it mean there's fewer blowouts? Even with this amazing offense and this brand new defense, are games closer? Or with these new both explosive offenses and defenses, does it lead to more blowouts, even if the games are tougher?
Yeah, it feels like they don't have an Akron game on the schedule this year. The MAC game is against Toledo this year. So I mean that is a substantially more difficult game. Akron is like the bottom of the MAC, and Toledo is sort of middle or mid to high generally most years. So, and you have Notre Dame, and you've got Arkansas State might be one of the opportunities for for those big number games. But yeah, I think it's going to be. You're going to have some closer games. I don't think you're necessarily going to have, complete massacres all through the season. So yeah, I think that I'm kind of relying on him to get more non-garbage playing time later on in the season in order to hit some of the stuff. And I think he's got a possibility of at least sort of working himself into the rotation where, he's playing before it's 52-3.
Yeah, I like that one. My third one, Tom. Caleb Brown rushes for more yards this year than Dallan Hayden. Caleb Brown, of course, is a wide receiver. Could be used in that slot role. Played running back in high school as well. Could be a jet sweep guy. He's different than really anybody else they have, and so maybe they find a way to use him. Whereas Dallan Hayden, yes, he's a running back, but he could be behind 4 other guys, and so the carries won't be necessarily as plentiful. And really, you look at Evan Pryor rushed for I think 98 yards this year. No, they haven't been running the receivers all that much. Garrett Wilson, pretty much the only guy that will have some of those. So Tom, this is very bold because you look at the history of freshman running backs at Ohio State. Travion Henderson rushed for over 1,200 yards last year. There's no receiver near him, let alone a freshman receiver. So,
I have a related one here, and I have a different take on Dallan Hayden's season. And Mayan Williams and Evan Pryor combined for 31 carries, 162 yards, and a touchdown in their true freshman seasons. Those two guys combined, and go ahead and mentally append the asterisk on the Mayan Williams 2020 season, but. Dallan Hayden beats all three of those numbers. So he beats the total numbers for Williams and Pryor combined. 32 carries, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. I agree with you. He's obviously fairly low on the depth chart. I do wonder if, are they really going to have 5 healthy running backs for game 1 this fall? Between health, between transfer portal, it feels like even if he's 5th in the depth chart this spring, I don't think he's 5th going into the season. And you're going to have probably some opportunities in the second half, and you're going to play guys for at least 4. It feels like you're going to play everyone for 4 games because you can play everyone for 4 games and maintain that year of eligibility, and you want guys to be on the field and feel like they're engaged and involved in the offense. So I think he's going to have some opportunities like Pryor did. And so, let's see what he can do. But I think I'm not expecting massive numbers or anything out of him, but it just feels like there's an opportunity probably once the roster sort of sorts itself out before the end of the fall for him to get some chances to run the ball this season.
I'm not going to nitpick that one. It's interesting to me because I think he is more likely by the start of the season, more likely to be the number 3 running back than the number 5 running back, because I'm not convinced there will be 5 running backs on the roster at that point. And again, we don't push guys out. We don't speculate on transfers, but guys want to carry the ball. And when you've got Travion Henderson in front of you, no matter who you are, you're like, well, my options are very limited. And so I would be pretty surprised if everybody stays. And if everybody stays, I think Dallan Hayden is your number 5 running back. Now, I think maybe the most likely thing is he's number 4, which still makes those 32 for 163 and 2 touchdowns. That's going to be tough to come by, especially, Tom, when Caleb Brown is running the ball and scoring so many touchdowns instead of him, and from the jet sweep formation.
Yeah, and it feels like either 0 or one of us are going to be right on the Dallan Hayden ones. I don't think there's any way we're both right on those, so that'll be interesting to see. And Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's either third, fourth, or fifth on the depth chart, and it's probably, it feels like there's probably a transfer in there somewhere, depending on where things shake out during the spring and the summer. And then, one guy twists an ankle, and all of a sudden, ta-da, you're third on the depth chart heading into September, which is when you're going to have some of those. I mean, the schedule sorts itself out with some of the easier games early on, so you potentially have an opportunity to get some carries early on and pile up some numbers, because he's someone who, I just talked about Caden Curry being someone who later in the year I could see him, really getting some rotation minutes. I don't necessarily expect that from Dallan Hayden, so it's like at the end of September, I have a feeling we're going to have a good sense for which one of us is going to get our Dallan Hayden predictions right and wrong, but it's at least a possibility, and I don't think the depth chart is quite as formidable as it might appear on the surface.
Yeah. So that brings us to my number 4 bold prediction for the Ohio State 2022 class, members of the class. And there will be a freshman cornerback who has a pick 6. Now, Tom.
So here's my next one.
This is going to be like a 20-minute podcast because we're picking all the same stuff.
Last year, Denzel Burke became the first true freshman to record a pick 6 for Ohio State since Rajay Burns in 2016. So I'll tell you what, if you take the quarterbacks, I'll take the safeties and the linebackers. How about that?
I also get the defensive line.
Haskell Garrett's gone. I have bad news. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it feels like they had 4 pick 6s last year. That was the first time they'd had more than 2 since 2016. That was 2016. Obviously, was the year where they had 7, where they had 3 for Malik Hooker. That was a complete historical outlier. It would have been like 1 and 2 every year since, from 2017 to 2020, and then last year they had 4. It feels like with Noles' defense being a little more aggressive, playing a little more cover 0, a little more pressure on the quarterback, get the ball out quick, perhaps creating a little bit more confusion on the back end. It feels like they might be a little more prone to producing turnovers. So yeah, I like that. I think you and I are probably thinking very much in the same vein there. So yeah, so you have corners and defensive linemen, and I have safeties and linebackers.
Sounds good.
This is the worst. This is like when we both picked Emeka Egbuka to run back a touchdown on the kickoff last year.
So I guess we've just guaranteed there will be no pick 6s. Like who is left? Punt safe? I don't know.
Yeah.
You mentioned Denzel Burke did it, and I had lost my train of thought, and it was a good thought, and it's unfortunate, Tom, that you have distracted me from sharing my knowledge with
is
the
it
people.
Is it the fact that we're 18 minutes into a bold prediction show, and when we don't argue, these go really fast, and all the people who complain that we argue too much are also going to be like, that show wasn't very long. It's like, well, you have to choose.
Welcome to another mini-sode.
You could have more of us, or you could have less of us, but those are, unless you want exactly the same amount of us, those are really your only 2 choices.
No, what I was going to say is Jim Knowles talked on Monday about wanting to create confusion, not just for the quarterback, but for the offensive coordinator, because you see how much these quarterbacks are looking back and forth to the sideline, and they want to just provide a simple look, and they don't know the coordinator doesn't know what's going to happen for that. So whatever they tell the quarterback, you're planning for it to be wrong, or you're able to adjust, or they're not going to be so sure of what's coming like they have been the past couple of years. And so if there's confusion by the quarterback, that's going to lead to some turnovers. Then it's a matter of returning them. I actually think, Tom, you've probably got the advantage here with the linebackers and the safeties, because one of my touchdowns is probably CJ Hicks on a pick 6, my freshman touchdowns. So, but you know what? If it helps me get to 5 and it beats you like normal, then I'm good. Because, Tom, I know the people can't see this, I don't think, but if you look at our names here on our screen.
Yes, mine just says my name. Tony says his name, and then in parentheses, best bold predictor.
Oh, is that right?
I mean,
did you do that?
History has not borne that out in any kind of meaningful, statistically significant way, but, we all... It's good to aspire to things.
The screen says moops. My last one, Tom.
I hope it's stupid because mine is very stupid.
No, it's very serious. Kyion Grayes will have at least 75 yards receiving against Michigan.
Oh my, that is
it's more
very
than
specific.
More than what Garrett Wilson did, more than what Chris Olave did. But I'm thinking maybe it's just a couple of catches. And he's got this. He reminds me of Chris Olave. And I think by that point in the season, there's not necessarily going to be a need for a role, but maybe in that third quarter when it's 38-17, and Ryan Day still wants to continue to throw the ball.
I was going to ask who was winning.
Yeah, no, Tom, come on. But this, I think there's some opportunities to move the ball in the air against Michigan next year, especially if you are angry about a certain head coach leaving and not coming back to face his comeuppance. But I like the history of freshman receivers against Michigan. This one, Kyion Grayes, going above and beyond because Chris Olave was 2 catches for 48 yards in 2018. 2019, Garrett Wilson, I don't know, did he have like 80 yards receiving? I should have checked.
I was going to say he had a 45 or 50-yard touchdown at one point. So, I mean, it feels like he would have had more than that. But I would have bet a lot of money that Chris Olave had more than 2 catches against Michigan because I can remember Chris Olave having 2 catches. And it's usually like, well, then there were 3 others that I don't remember. But
3 for 118 for Garrett Wilson. And then for Olave, 2 for 48, the 2 24-yard touchdowns. So, Tom, still, it's specific. It's a bold one freshman receiver, something that no other freshman has done in the history of Ohio State football since Garrett Wilson.
It has been nearly in the one game that has happened since Garrett Wilson did it. It did not happen. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
The only thing that is saving you from my absolute harshest scorn is the fact that you picked a specific wide receiver, which is good because I have kind of felt all along like there are 4 wide receivers in this freshman class, and I could kind of see any of them being that dude this year who's, becomes the one who steps up later in the year. I think we both picked Kyion Grayes in one of the earlier shows, just sort of agreed on him as being someone who might be the early impact guy there. But yeah, I like it. It is specific. It is one player. It is picking someone to do something that most people will not do. I like it. That's if you had said just one wide receiver, I would have probably given you a little bit of grief over that. But picking the specific player to do it, and that's just enough yardage that it's like you'd have to have like that would be like that becomes a post game story if Kyion Grayes has 76 yards receiving against Michigan. So yeah, I like that one.
Okay, what's your stupid final one?
It is Tony. What numbers are more sacred to this podcast than the number 17 and 34? So Tony, no freshman all season scores a touchdown from the 17 or 34 yard lines, or Tony has a rush or reception of exactly 34 yards.
Oh, okay, because I thought going 17 and 34 would have been extremely bold, but completely avoiding 34 altogether, leaving some room for a 17-yard touchdown, because again, these are not 2-point bold predictions. These are not 3-point bold predictions. These are just normal bold predictions. So you have to leave yourself some leeway. And
I'm saying no touchdown of 17 or 34, and then no rush or reception of exactly 34. So
right,
you could have a 17. Yes, you could have
So,
you could have a 17-yard rush or reception as long as it does not end in the end zone.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be one. I hope that we remember to monitor this. Like play by play, where it's like fourth quarter, Dallan Hayden comes in and it's like they got the ball to 17 and you're like, oh man, I hope he goes here.
Take a knee, punt it.
So yeah, okay. So let's see. No player, no score of 34 or 17, touchdown.
Yes.
Because what if Dallan Hayden kicks a field goal of 34 yards?
See, then boom. I mean, I'm still good.
Okay. Well,
you have discovered my sneaky loophole of the
I should have expected
field goal kicking running back. Yes,
or a rush or reception of 34 yards. However, 17 yards is still good. All right. I will allow that one because anytime you implement, you bring in the 34-17 rule, it's like, you got to have some leeway there because it's part of the show canon now.
And any play that happens within 17 minutes of sunset, one direction or another, does not count. I mean, this is just.
Unless it takes place by somebody wearing the number 34 jersey. Now, I don't know if Dallan Hayden is wearing 34 or Gabe Powers or whatever. If anything happens, if anybody in a 17 or 34 jersey does anything, I don't know if that's good or bad.
We're about to have the year of Bryson Shaw. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're about to have the year of Bryson Shaw. So, and Mitch Rossi. I mean, man, I expect those now to be the two stories of the 2022 Ohio State football season.
Man, it's sneaky important that Mitch Rossi is back, and it was very important that Bryson Shaw was at Ohio State this past year because without those two dudes, say what you want, they would have missed.
And Lord knows the internet has.
Yes, very much so. Those guys were. Mitch Rossi was awesome. Bryson Shaw was better than the alternatives, no matter what the people think. Some people out there think. But Tom, I think that was very successful. I know we only did 10, but that's okay. There's going to be plenty of time to do more throughout the year. But I think we've got these locked in, and this is specifically about the 2022 class. This year, we didn't need to go overboard. We went with 10, and the best 10. Like this was, I could not come up with 5 better, and obviously you could not come up with 5 better than mine. So you came up with your 5.
I came up with 4 really good ones, and one that was very on brand. That's about all you can ask.
You're very happy with 4, not so happy with the 5th, but that's okay. Tom, anything else before we go?
I think we've covered it. I think. I am excited to. I'm going to leave myself a note in my phone for like December 10th or so of next year when we're.
Gosh.
But hey, make sure you go back and check your notes app on your computer from the beginning of February. There's going to be some nonsense in there, and you guys can talk about it. It's going to be great.
It will be fun. I look forward to it. So that will do it for this episode. As always, we thank you guys for joining us on not just the bold prediction shows, but all of our regular shows as well, and our normal prediction shows. And maybe one day, Tom, super bold prediction shows. Only 5-pointers.
Can't wait. It's the Rock and Jock basketball game, except for bold predictions.
Just Hero Canoe, 72 yards rushing against Vanderbilt. It's like none of that is happening. That's what makes it a 5-pointer.
Kojo Antwi catches a touchdown pass in his helmet.
No, the play would be dead. It would have to be somebody else's helmet. Which I think like a defender. Now that's we'll talk about it later. Save that for another show. That's a show all in itself. So I want to.
We got a lot of off season to fill before we get to the regular season.
Top 10 players most likely to catch touchdowns in somebody else's helmet. That's boom. That's a big YouTuber right there as well. So that will do it. More than enough for this show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.